Hello everybody and welcome into the Grindstone Developments Truck Series live tonight from the Milwaukee Mile Raceway. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. Did have a little brief hiccup here right before we were about to go live, so we're coming in just a little bit late. And with that, let's get right down trackside and get into tonight's starting grid. The man on the pole, none other than the championship leader right now. That's the 55 of James Harris. Brandon Cooper will roll off second with Trey Whitehead back in third. Harley Barletta will start fourth tonight. It's going to be Bryce Rayner back in fifth. Toby Ritters in sixth. Jason Nethery will start seventh with Brad Thacker in eighth. George Young ninth. Wesley Shaw back in 10th. Charles Whitehead in 11th. Chris Logan in 12th. All right, it's go time. Here we go. Green flag in the air. Again, apologies for the late jump. But nonetheless, already as they dive off into turn one, 2x2. Nobody going to give up early because the bottom line going to likely become dominant here as we get later into the run. But so far, that outside holding strong for Brandon Cooper continues to challenge up front for the lead here from James Harris. Single filing out now pretty quickly for the top three. Further back, still side by side between Brad Thacker and the 48 of George Young. They'll figure it out by the time they get down towards turn one. And tell you what, the laps go by quick here, and it's a very interesting track. We'll get into the race info here in just a moment, but amidst the chaos on the restart, we've had a little bit of a breakaway here for your front two. Currently sitting just behind the 71. Trey Whitehead, he's trying to make up some ground. A few spots behind him, Toby Ritters, who had a phenomenal run last week, came up just one position short of his first win of the season. How can he bounce back and try to recover here tonight? So as things continue to settle out now, 3 laps in the books. And since, again, we did come on to start the race a little bit late, I did want to make sure I got you a chance to show you the race info here tonight. It is the Milwaukee 120. So the total race distance, as you probably saw on the timing tower, 120 laps. And as always, going to have 100% fuel, 2 sets of tires, that one faster pair if you need it. Fixed setups in 2 green-white checkers. The Milwaukee Mile, a very interesting track, as the name implies. Exactly 1 mile in length. Track temp tonight, 83 degrees, cloudy skies, and calm winds. But not a lot of banking at all at this track. Pretty much a flat, short track by most drivers' standards. And so it's one of the more technical ones. I think one of the guys who has to be a favorite here tonight and who this would play into the wheelhouse of is definitely the 99 of Bryce Rayner. Bryce currently in that 3rd spot. He's already picked up 2 from where he started this race at, so it didn't take him long to get a couple of positions. But he still has some work to do here. And again, there will be at least 1 green flag pit stop. I don't see these guys having to make 2. And that makes that 1 stop that you do make all the more important. Now, James Harris, again, we talked about him quite a bit this season because he is currently your points championship leader coming into this race. He leads Bryce Rayner, who moved up to 2nd from 3rd after his win last week, and is now currently just 12 points ahead of the 99. And really, that's a pretty comfortable lead. We heard him say last week, I think it was, he said he only needed an average finish of about 4th to be able to maintain that points lead, which is true. And I don't think if you're James Harris, you're too worried about this track here tonight. I think you feel pretty comfortable. It's coming up at Atlanta that you get nervous about. We got Darlington next week, and then it's that championship race at New Atlanta, which pretty much is similar to a Daytona or Talladega. Anything can happen, and if you get caught up in a wreck and Bryce Rayner doesn't, all of a sudden you may not be the points favorite any longer. But still, well out in front here at the Milwaukee Mile. We have now completed 7 of the 120 laps, and we'll go on board now with your points leader, James Harris. And a couple things to notice here. We're going to pull up the track map and telemetry for you and show you what a lap around the Milwaukee Mile looks like. Again, as they get down into the corner here, this will be going into turn 3. You notice that yellow, almost kind of like a rumble strip down on the bottom. That makes it an easy cue for a driver of how low you got to get on the racetrack before you start to work back up. What makes this track so interesting is you've got these really long straightaways, but no banking in the corner, so you got to get checked up quite a bit once you actually get into the corner. And then it's all about which line you can get the most momentum in. And again, I feel like it's going to be the bottom, especially as the run goes on. It seems like it's certainly the bottom right now. You factor in the fact that we've got that cooler track temp, and just don't really see much of a way that that top would be preferred, although we did see it trying to make some ground for Brandon Cooper on the restart. No cautions yet if you're just tuning in. You are watching the Grindstone Developments Truck Series live from the Milwaukee Mile. And Trey Whitehead currently sitting in the 4th spot, trying to make up some positions. He had a good run at Watkins Glen just a couple weeks ago. Was able to get a podium there. Boy, you can see he's already fighting the truck. Look how loose he is on corner exit right there off of turn 2. We'll watch him again here as he goes off of turn number 4 to see if he gets more of the same. And it's when you try to get the throttle down. Again, we talk about these trucks being heavy, a lot of horsepower, but not a lot of downforce. Yeah, you can still see Whitehead already having to saw the wheel back and forth on exit of the corners. And it's a little concerning because when you start to get loose this early on, it doesn't get better. It usually gets worse. It's Charles Whitehead here off the pace down the front stretch. What has happened to the 51? I think he may have gotten loose somewhere back in turn 3 and 4. And maybe either looped it around or just gone through the grass. Let's take a look here. So he's going through. Oh, he drops 2 tires onto the grass. And then, yeah, it just gets loose on him. Starts to slide, but he's able to catch it as he gets into that little exit ramp, if you will, of little grass strip before the concrete wall. Did not hit anything, so the 51 all good there. But obviously going to lose whatever track position he had, and now he's going to have to try to fight for it back. And by the way, the leaders have already put about 12 to 13 seconds between themselves and the back 2 cars. That's about half a lap. And I bring that up because we are going to be certainly talking about lap traffic at some point here tonight. It's just more so a matter of when. And again, if you are just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. 12 laps in the books and no issues yet in the Milwaukee 120. Still up front, though, James Harris, currently followed by the 54 of Brandon Cooper. Bryce Rayner sitting comfortably in 3rd. Trey Whitehead 4th. Toby Ritter's in 5th. Jason Ethery back in 6th. He's got some space between himself and Harley Barletta, who currently sits in 7th. Then it's Brad Thacker 8th. George Young in 9th on an island by himself. And the last 3 here, Wesley Shaw, Chris Logan, and Charles Whitehead, all sitting at the back of the group. And what a shout out here to Wesley Shaw. Haven't got to see him really much at all this season. Looks like he's making his return, though, here tonight. And the driver out of Springtown, Texas, picked probably one of the hardest tracks to try to make a return at. Got to get a lot of practice in here. I'm not sure if Wesley got the opportunity to do that or not this week, but certainly trying to make the best out of what he can with a top 10 run going at the moment. We'll see if he's able to keep that up here for the rest of the race. Now, I'll tell you what, I would have thought tires would have worn out and we would have started to see some sort of change up front, but I don't know if James Harris has just figured it out and knows how to save tires at this track better than the 2 behind him, or if it's something else in terms of tires maybe not falling off yet. But that 55, once he got to the lead, he started on the pole, brief battle with Cooper, but was able to stay out in front. And since he's been in the lead, I mean, it really seems like neither the 54 or the 99 have really had much of anything for him. But they're still within striking distance, so if something changes here for James Harris and he starts to fall off even just a little bit, you're going to be there to try to jump on it. So knowing that, I think if you're James Harris here, you got to certainly make sure that you take care of your stuff, especially if you can tell that the 99 is starting to battle with the 54. The more those two go at it, the more they wear their tires out. Single file into turn 3, and the other thing is, look how similar of a line they're running. It's all about trying to paint the bottom. That's what we've seen so far here tonight. It seems like Harris has been able to do it the best so far, but that time, boy, the 54, I mean, you could see it visually from the blink cam. He was able to hook the bottom longer than the 55, and coming off the corner, he got a pretty big run, but wasn't able to really make anything of it. Through 1 and 2, though, all of a sudden, Brandon Cooper now starting to close it back up. Here we go. Could we have a battle for the lead setting up? If you're James Harris here, you're keeping close tabs on the 99, and you know, I want to say obviously Harris wants to win again, but the big thing here is you know that you cannot make a mistake with how good the 99 is running, and by that, you don't want to get too aggressive with these guys and somehow spin out, get stuck towards the back of the field, let that 99 finish that many more positions ahead of you. If you lose a spot or two to him, no big deal, but I still think that James Harris is trying to hold on because he thinks that once these tires wear out, might help him out a little bit more. And clean air may be a little bit of a factor here tonight, but not going to be anywhere as important as it will be next week when we go to Darlington. Speed's a lot higher through the corners there. Back in the 4th and 5th spot, Trey Whitehead, Toby Ritter's here, starting to close the gap on each other. Toby Ritter's we talked about last week. You can almost hear a little bit of, I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but happy frustration in his voice during the interviews, because he said he did everything right? He had the tire strategy, felt like he was running a better line for a little while, but he just could not fend off the 99 of Bryce Rayner, who was on old tires right there at the end. Toby knew that was a great shot at getting that first win of the season and just slipped away, and I've been on the track as a driver, and it's always a hard feeling to have to try to beat. For Toby Ritters, got to think he's going to use that as some motivation to try to come back with an even better run here tonight. So we'll see if it's able to play out that way for him. Just now getting ready to cross the stripe that will complete 20 of 120 laps in the books. So we will be 1/6 of the way through this one. And I would argue that this is one of the longer races of the season. And the reason I bring that up is for the drivers, it's such a rhythm-based racetrack already. But then you add in the fact that it's also, like I said, one of the longer races of the season. You know there's a pit stop to be made, but you got to stay really, really focused. Maybe not the hardest thing right now because it is still early, but as we get late into this race, I'll be the first one to tell you, it gets pretty tough pretty quick. So far out front, they're doing good. By the way, I did want to mention Toby Ritters is carrying an onboard view for us here tonight. So we certainly appreciate Toby for that. And you can see a lot of wheel work. I wish we had pedal cams. Caution. Trouble here. See if we can figure out where this was. I see one truck retired, but I don't see anybody else spun out. So I'm going to assume this incident had something to do here. 51 of Charles Whitehead. You see him parked in the pits now. And, ooh, yeah, some certainly nose damage there to the front end of his Chevy Silverado. So that tells me Charles Whitehead, he hit something here, and it looks like he hit it pretty hard. Let's go back and take a look at what brings out the first caution of the night here in the Milwaukee 120. So he was already spun around at that point, and man, big damage too. He ripped the whole hood off. This is coming out of 4, same corner that he had trouble with earlier, and it looks like it's going to be likely the same kind of setup here. Just trying to pick up the throttle a little too soon. Now, I will say he's up the racetrack, which tells me he was already carrying a lot of speed through the corner, but it seems like he's okay until he gets on exit, and then, yeah, you just see the back end starts to get loose on him. Truck slides, and, oh, man, he hits about the worst spot you could on the racetrack. The barrels that protect that pit road entry concrete wall. And that just completely destroys the truck. See if I can get a better view for you here. Quick note while we're looking at this. The cameras here at Milwaukee that iRacing provides really aren't that good, so I apologize for that. But, bam, there's a big hit for the 51. And, I mean, as soon as he hits the wall, you can see it just tears the left front quarter panel off. The hood as well crumples up the nose. Now, he stops it, and he's going to reverse it down to the bottom. The problem here is that look at the rest of the field. I mean, they're coming right as he wants to go, and Charles Whitehead does completely the right thing. I don't fault him at all there. He stops. He realizes, hey, if I pull forward here, I'm probably going to collect the leaders. And so it does bring out a caution because he is stopped, but, yeah, certainly nothing that Charles Whitehead did wrong there at all. Played the safer route, and I'm sure a lot of the guys up front appreciated it right there. Kept them from potentially seeing any damage. And here's the onboard view for Whitehead. See, he tries to straighten it back out. Sometimes you feel like it's going to catch, and once in a while it will. Other times it doesn't. He just ran out of room there, and see the field going by out of his windshield. He sees that. Decides it's probably a safer bet to pay the tow bill. Nonetheless, though, if he can take that fast repair, which it looks like he just did, he will make it back out on the racetrack, but certainly now going to change the rest of his night. Besides the 51 having that incident right there, it has felt like a really clean night so far, and for that reason, we have seen a lot of your leaders go down and pit under that caution. I think a lot of people feeling like we may not see another one. And so you want to make sure that you're on the right tire strategy, similar to what we saw work out for Toby Ritters last week. But a couple guys here going with a little bit more of a stronger tire call, if you will. That's the 71 of Whitehead and the 3 of Ritters. That has gotten them some track position, though. They are now up front, and they will be for this restart. Here we go. Pace car pulls off back into the restart zone, and we are back to green flag racing here at Milwaukee, and it's a great jump for the inside line. Trey Whitehead's going to lead everybody down to turn 1 by about 2 truck lengths. 3 wide out back. Whoa, hold on here if you're Toby Ritters. A couple guys washing up the racetrack. Thacker contact. This will surely draw the caution again. The 56 slides. Big damage to the 34. Excuse me, that's the 52 of Wesley Shaw. And he is going to try to limp this truck back to the pits here. Did not bring out a caution. Can't believe it. So we'll go back and look at that in just a moment. But up front, the racing for second is on, and it is heated up. Whoa! Oh, man, James Harris gets in Rayner, and he turns him. The 99 up the track. Caution is out as Rayner slides up into the outside wall, and I don't think he's going to be too happy about that one. Saw it develop I called it kind of slow because I thought Rayner might save it, but these guys on cold tires just nowhere near enough grip when you get hit that hard in the back in the middle of the corner to be able to try to save it. That's a big break, though, I'll tell you what, for Brad Thacker and Wesley Shaw. Wesley Shaw here, I'm not sure where his truck... Yeah, he's still got the damage truck out on the racetrack. In fact, the hood now flying up to the windshield. I don't even know how he can see, but he's going to try to limp this thing around now to catch the field with that caution so that he doesn't have to lose a lap when he goes in to take that faster pair. So a good break for them, and boy, that restart was certainly a lot more aggressive than what we had on the initial start here tonight. Let's go back and look at it here for James Harris and Bryce Rayner. This looked like it might have developed a little bit further back, so it was very interesting to see. Ooh, there might have been some contact right here. This is going to be coming off of turn 4. We'll go first here to the chopper view. See Bryce Rayner on the inside of 3 wide, and no contact. Rayner gets a little loose, but it's not from any contact. He's just trying to keep it off of the 55. As they go into the next corner, you can see what Rayner does. He decides to ship it in deep so that he can slide up in front of the 55, and then as he gets into the middle of the corner, he's got to get on the brakes. The 55 has a run. James Harris tags it in the back pretty hard. Rayner tried to save it here, but again, just couldn't quite hold on to it. See if we can get another angle of this here for you. This is TV1. This is the view we saw it from. This was TV2. And lucky to not collect anyone. Trey Whitehead, boy, what an evasive maneuver he had to make. Toby Ritter's lucky to not make any contact there as well. Now, there is safer barrier up in the turns here, so for Rayner, you wonder if the damage maybe isn't quite as bad, but that's still a pretty solid hit. We'll have to see if he decides to use the faster pair on this or not. Let's go to the onboard view here for James Harris and watch what it looks like from his point of view. Again, I think I kind of can visualize exactly what was going through the mind here of James Harris and why this wreck happened. This was nothing intentional, even if it may look so. For Harris here, see how big the checkup is? So what happens is you've got James Harris, he's taking a wider arc entry into the corner, so he has to get out of the gas and on the brake sooner. Rayner decides to go kind of with the dive bomb, shoot it in the corner, and then jump up approach. And so for Rayner, by the time he gets to the middle of the corner, he's tight, so he's got to check up. And the opposite's true for Harris. He's already done the checkup. Now he's trying to get back on the gas for the middle and exit of the corner. And so he's just got a big run. Couldn't tell if Rayner got a little bit loose, but either way, the contact occurred. And while it may have been an accident, it still stands on the fact that if you're Bryce Rayner, you're not too happy with James Harris, especially knowing that you're trying to chase him down for the points championship. Nonetheless, though, we're going to try again here. It'll be 29 of 120 laps complete. On the front row, it's Brandon Cooper, James Harris, Trey Whitehead, Jason Ethery on row 2. Chris Logan back in row 3 alongside Harley Barletta. Here we go again. It was aggressive last time. How aggressive will it be this time? Green flag back in the air. Good jump right away to the top. The 54, Brandon Cooper, gets a good arc into the first corner. Man, look at James Harris doing exactly what he did last time. Putting the pressure on early here, trying to get around the 54 and establish the lead as soon as he can. Out back, they are currently battling for that third spot. Jason Nethery showing some fight now. He has made up 3 positions from where he started this race at. Not going to be able to get clear, or is he? Yes, he does. Just barely. Nethery's able to slam the door on Harley Barletta. Now Harley's going to cross him back over to the inside. You see Bryce Rayner trapped back here as well, and as frustrated as he is, he knows that he doesn't want to use up his stuff here in the process of trying to get around these guys. He also knows that there is some desperation. The sooner you can get around, the better. As we now have 90 laps to go in this race. And by the way, I'm still curious about if these guys will have to make a pit stop now. We knew they were guaranteed to have to do one at the start, but now I wonder, with that caution and with 30 laps in the books, and boy, you saw it out of the windshield right there for Rayner. That was a close call up front. Man, oh man. James Harris getting aggressive. He knows that if he can get this lead now, he might have a shot to try to pull away again. Brandon Cooper not going to give it up easy, though. The 54 has already won a race before this season. He knows how to get up here and get it done, but with just 31 laps complete, still a long ways to go. It is interesting, though, the guys that have been up front seem to have a bigger advantage here than a lot of tracks we go to. It has been really, really difficult to pass, with the exception of the first lap or two on the restarts. So I got to think you keep that in mind for any more restarts if we see in this race, is you know how quickly things are going to start to single file out, and when they do, it's so difficult to pass. I think that means you got to work even that much more harder on the restart. Another wiggle right there. That was from the 71 of Trey Whitehead. Appreciate the view right there from the pit lane 2 cam. Toby Ritter's going to be able to get by the 71 right here through turn 2. He'll get clear up. That's another position now for Toby Ritter's. Back into the 6th position he goes. And by the way, I mentioned the championship battle between the top 2 in points, but can't forget about the 3rd man on the podium, Tyler Meeks. Did not make the race tonight. Jason Nethery is currently 4th in points, but he was almost 30 points behind Tyler Meeks. By Tyler not making this race, that could close it relatively significantly depending on where Nethery can finish. I still think that if Meeks can make the next 2 races and have a good finish, he'll be fine. But just something to keep an eye on. And then also, look back in that 5th spot. John Thacker. I haven't even called his name in the last week or 2, but he still sits 5th in points. Chris Logan 6th, William Mann Jr. in 7th. So still a lot of guys looking for a good round out to their season via points. And by the way, next season, the Grindstone Developments Truck Series will be switching to a late model series. So these guys are going to be going to a lot more short tracks. Good time to get your practice in here tonight while you can. Still single file. The top 2, though, starting to separate a little bit from the next 2 in line. Harley Barletta. Boy, once he got back around Jason Nethery, he found some speed in that 31 truck. And he is really starting to put the pace on now, trying to track down 2nd place James Harris and also fending off the 99 of Bryce Rayner. There's the onboard view for Bryce Rayner right now, currently sitting in that 4th spot after getting turned in that last incident, and I didn't see any damage on the back of his truck. Couldn't tell if he took the fast repair or not, or just got it fixed manually, but the back of that truck looking clean again. He's got the maroon PC sponsor. So he tries to see if he can make it win at number 3. 3 in a row, 2 at that here tonight. Got the job done at Watkins Glen, and he was able to get the job done again last week at Richmond. Trying to do it here tonight at Milwaukee. By the way, track temp still plenty cool, 87 degrees. You notice it's kind of a, we know it's a cloudy day, but also a little bit of haziness to the sim right now. So all that cool track temperature just helps grip and makes it that much more tough to pass. I keep mentioning that because we really haven't seen a ton of racing outside of the restarts here tonight. We got a little bit on that first run, but man, Brandon Cooper up front has really been able to control this lead and stretch a bit of a gap now over 2nd place James Harris. I think if you're James right here, you're getting close to that point of you got to make a decision here. Do you save tire and hope he comes back to you late in the run? Or do you try to push the pace one more time here, and if you burn up your stuff, maybe go with an early pit call? But it's just hard to say because, again, I'm not sure if these guys can make it on one stop from here. We went back green with about 30 laps complete. So that left us about 90 to go, maybe a lap or 2 more. I don't know if they can make that on fuel. If they can, I would assume they can make it on tires as well. But if not, then I think tire strategy obviously comes back into the game. And it's a matter of, do you want to pit early and play defense late? Or do you want to pit a little bit later and be able to play on offense late? Bryce Rayner still trying to find a way around the 31 of Barletta. He has gotten to his back bumper a couple of times here. One thing he hasn't been able to do is get past him, but he's going to look to the inside. Here we go. Maybe a little bit of contact. Watch out here. Harley Barletta trying to defend the position. I think Bryce Rayner is getting a little bit tired of waiting right here. And, you know, some tracks we talk about maybe too much aggression. I think a little bit of bumper tag is all fair here. I mean, especially with how hard it's been to pass tonight. But Harley Barletta doing the veteran maneuver right there, and that is pulling up, letting the 99 go by. He realizes how much faster Bryce Rayner is. Knows that we're not even halfway through this race. So he'll let him go for now and see if he can chase him back down as we get closer to the end of this race. Wesley Shaw, by the way, see him back out on the racetrack here, and I was trying to figure out, almost looks like he still has quite a bit of damage on that 52 truck, especially to the front nose. Be really surprised here that he did not choose to take his fast repair. I know it's a short track, but got that fast repair, you certainly want to use it when the hood flies off, but he chose not to. So he will now fall what has been 5 laps down, as Charles Whitehead, the other truck down on the lead lap, he's 2 down. Wesley Shaw still running the top group, just trying to stay out of the way for the moment. There's Brandon Cooper, James Harris, and Bryce Rayner getting to that third spot. We're going to keep a close eye now on lap times between both Rayner and Harris. The big thing to notice is that for Bryce Rayner, he has been faster all of the last 5 laps. Unless I'm reading this wrong. It looks like he was under. There we go. I was going to say, this last lap didn't seem like he gained. So the last lap looks like he may have been a little bit slower here. Let's go back to James Harris. Harris ran a 30.8. No, I take it back. James Harris, I flipped it, yeah. So James Harris was actually faster 4 out of the last 5 laps. Bryce Rayner was faster the last lap, and that was once he finally got around Harley Barletta. So we'll see if that continues. If Bryce Rayner can track down the 55, who cannot seem to track down the 54. Brandon Cooper now has the gap of his lead up to just over 0.7 of a second. He'll try to keep stretching this out as we slowly get closer to the halfway point in this race. Hop back on an onboard view here. This is for, again, Brandon Cooper. And notice, very disciplined with the throttle off the corner. You don't see him sawing the wheel back to the right a lot. It's always a good sign. We'll hop on board now with the truck just behind him, James Harris. Now let's see the similarities and the differences here of the line. From that point of view, at least, they look pretty similar through about 90% of the corner. So wherever Brandon Cooper is gaining his advantage, it's not major, but it is certainly accumulating over time. I would say for James Harris, even though you're running second, it's got to be feeling pretty good. As you see, he's not sawing on the wheel too much right now either, so it tells me the handling of that truck is not feeling too bad at the moment. Here is Bryce Rayner trying to track them down, currently over 1.5 seconds back from your 2 leaders. Harley Barletta still slotted into that 4th spot, but Toby Ritters was able to find his way back up into the top 5. So for Toby Ritters here, he's got to be feeling pretty good right now as well. Chris Logan, one of his best runs of the season, he's got going right now, currently in the 7th position. And he's up 5 spots from where he started this race at. This could be a huge swing of momentum for Chris Logan, the driver out of Hillsboro. If he can keep this run going here through the rest of the night, he's got a couple trucks that he's trying to hold off behind him. That includes Trey Whitehead and George Young, the other 2 on the lead lap in both 8th and 9th. And then you've got Brad Thacker in 10th. By the way, Thacker is on the lead lap as well. And then Charles Whitehead and Wesley Shaw are still the only 2 that are not. Charles Whitehead 2 laps down. Wesley Shaw currently being scored 5 laps down. So we'll have to see how things pan out the rest of the way. But up front, gap maybe closing up just a little bit now. 0.6 of a second for Brandon Cooper. And Bryce Rayner has now closed into under 1.5 seconds from your 2 leaders. So maybe James Harris is saving a little something here, trying to see if he'll have enough tire life to stretch it further than the 54 as we get later on into this run. And, for Harris, too, I will say this. If he gets a win tonight or at Darlington, I think that helps get him even more comfortable and more confident about his chances of being able to fend him off the 99 that is a Bryce Rayner at Atlanta. And the other thing I was sitting here thinking about this week after hearing the interview from James Harris is, depending on how this week and next week go, let's say he finishes top 2, finishes ahead of Rayner, whatever the scenario may be, if they're within probably about 10 points of each other or so, I would say, if it gets to be that way, if you're Harris at Atlanta, do you almost take it easy and kind of give up a chance at maybe fighting for the win just to make sure that you secure the championship and don't get caught up in an accident? Or do you still get up there, get aggressive, and see how the cards play? That'll be something we'll have to watch. But again, we still have one more week before we get to that championship race, and that'll be next week at the Lady in Black Darlington Raceway. By the way, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. You're watching the Grindstone Developments Truck Series on PGR eSports. Mike Kinda Drives says earlier in regard to the incident regarding Rayner and Harris, Harris touched him. This happens. Champions battling. Yeah, you got that right. Hard racing, the guys that race each other the hardest are always the ones that manage to make some contact, but didn't really affect either of their nights much. Rayner obviously with some damage, but he was able to recover pretty quickly. Now back up to that 3rd spot. But obviously the 99, you got to think, is still frustrated because he's probably wondering, if that contact never would have occurred, could he potentially be up there fighting for or in the lead? He now closes that gap down closer to a second between himself and the 2 leaders. We are about 8 laps from the halfway point in this one. James Harris closed it up to 0.6 of a second, but then it stretched back out a couple tenths. So he has still not been able to consistently find a way to track down the 54 of Brandon Cooper yet. We've been on this green flag run now for probably about 20 laps or so. Tires are certainly starting to feel it a little bit. We're not quite in the portion of the run where I would say tires are really worse for wear, but the top 3 have checked out on the rest of the field. Harley Barletta 4th. Toby Ritter's now potentially getting ready to go to battle with him. Show you some different vantage points here from Toby Ritter's. There's the left front. You see how close they get to that yellow line, and actually, I mentioned it being like a rumble strip. Pretty much is. In fact, you could hear it right there as Toby Ritter's went over it. And the only dangerous part about it, turn 1 is interesting too. You see, it seems like guys get in a little bit more up the track. You don't have quite as much of that rumble strip that you can use on entry to the corner. But then as they get later on into turn 3 and turn 4, you usually see guys try to hook the bottom a little bit more and actually get the left side tires on that double yellow line. But we did see Charles Whitehead earlier, and this is what I was getting ready to mention, is if you get a little bit too low, you drop the left side tires in the grass, it can be troublesome. So you got to be careful of that. James Harris continues to fade back and now falling into the clutches here of Bryce Rayner. The 99 has made his way up to second. Made his way up to that second place truck, and wants that spot. James Harris here, how will he defend? And if you're Bryce Rayner, wonder if he thinks about, does he kind of get, I don't want to say payback, but does he get a little bit of, I can push you around a little bit since you pushed me around a little bit on the last go. I'll have to see what Rayner decides to do if he gets to him. I'm gonna put my bet on, I think Rayner keeps it clean here. One of the cleanest drivers you'll find in the series. I think he'll take his time and see if he can find a way around James Harris the patient way. So these two at the moment continue to be the main battle on track. Rayner holding that truck a little bit lower on entry and through the center of the corner, but seems like it's not really giving him much momentum on exit. Maybe help him save a little bit more tire though. Brandon Cooper loves what he sees in his mirror, because the more these two race, the more it'll allow him to stretch that gap out between first and second. You can see it there over the course of the last 5 laps. For a split second, I should say a lap, I guess, Harris started to catch back up, but then all of a sudden that gap started to expand, and over the last lap, it has continued to do that. Now up over a second for the 54 of Brandon Cooper. Now I will say he is going to be starting to slowly catch up here to some lap traffic, and when he gets there, that can all of a sudden change the pace of your race. You don't want to get caught behind a lap truck at the wrong point on the racetrack. Sometimes that happens, and that can be all the guys in second and third need to track you back down. And it looks like right now it is only one lap truck, and it's the 13th place running, 12th place running, or is it not? 11th place running Charles Whitehead. Just trying to read what the green dot had on our track map, but Charles Whitehead not going to necessarily be an easy pass unless he chooses to give it up. But if you're Charles Whitehead, you're 2 laps down. Obviously, you don't want to lose a third. So we'll see if he decides to kind of race the leader right here, or if he decides to let him go. Now, once the leader gets by, second and third usually get let by a lot easier, but it's still something that we'll have to keep a close eye on. And as they cross the line this time, it'll officially be halfway. Battle for second is on. Bryce Rayner to the inside of James Harris, trying to sneak by off of turn 4. Can he do it? No. They're going to stay side by side down the straightaway. And oh boy, watch out. This is the same move that Rayner pulled last time. Harris got into his rear bumper this time, though. They sorted out a lot cleaner. Harris gets some momentum through the corner, but he's not going to be able to sustain it on the exit. So James Harris now falls into the 3rd spot. Last man on the podium. Bryce Rayner now moves up to 2nd. That puts him up 3 spots where he started this race at. And now if you're Bryce Rayner, the big thing becomes seeing if you can go up there, try to track down the race leader, Brandon Cooper. Charles Whitehead not putting up much of a fight for the leader, decides to let him go. He'll do the same for Bryce Rayner and James Harris. This is back to the onboard view here for Bryce Rayner. Right now that gap is about 1.2 seconds And again, we talked about them just crossing the halfway point last lap. If they still have to make a pit stop, I think Bryce Rayner has an even better shot at catching the 54. If they don't, certainly be really interesting to watch. Rayner definitely managing the tires a little bit better right now. You don't even hear him really sliding the tires much. For Brandon Cooper here, let's go on board and take a listen. Does seem like Brandon Cooper may be pushing the tires a little bit more. He can't seem to quite get all the way down to the bottom the way that Rayner does. But he still has that 1.2 second cushion. And the goal here is obviously just to try to maintain that until we get closer to the end. And that was a little bit of a mistake right there as you saw him wheel hop the truck just a little bit on exit. Had to jump out of the gas, and that'll cost him a little bit of time. So if you're just tuning in, top three continue to be Brandon Cooper, Bryce Rayner, James Harris, Harley Barletta, Toby Ritters. Keeping an eye on this battle as well. Ritters has not been able to make the move yet on the 31 of Barletta. He's been sticking really close, but continues to be patient here, waiting to see if the opportunity is going to open up. Maybe Barletta makes a mistake, and that allows Ritter to sneak by. But if these two stay this close together by the end, you wonder if Toby maybe has to use a little bit of the chrome horn, see if he can get that 31 truck out of the groove. As we watch their lines for Toby Ritters here, he enters a little bit higher to the corner, but he's able to get a much better run through the middle. And then on exit, they're close to even, but it seems like Harley is able to get the throttle down maybe just a little bit sooner. See if for one of them their handling goes away a little bit sooner. But, you know, I think Toby Ritters has actually established himself over the course of this season as one of the better short track racers that we've got in the series. As he had, again, a great run last week at Richmond. He's got a good run going tonight here at the Milwaukee Mile. So that could play to his strengths once we turn towards the late model series next season. And another guy that's going to play to his strengths too is, of course, the 99 of Bryce Rayner. Who, by the way, has now broken under a second for the gap between himself and the 54 of Brandon Cooper. For Bryce Rayner right here, again, got to be feeling pretty good. If he can continue to track that 54 down, if he can get a win, that'll close the gap on the points lead between himself and James Harrison. If they finish exactly how they stand right now, that would be 2 points, or excuse me, not right now. If Rayner takes the lead, I meant to say, and then Cooper finishes second, Harris stays third, then that would move Bryce Rayner up 2 points on James Harrison. He would be within 10. That becomes a little bit more manageable for the last two races because, again, we know that we have at least 10 car fields weekly. You might even see a little bit more than that for Atlanta. The more cars you have with this points format, the more points, though, will be available on the table. So I almost think if you're Bryce Rayner, your best friend here is bigger fields for the last 2 weeks, but I think if we're averaging between 10 to 15, going to certainly need to try to pick up some points here tonight and definitely find a way to pick up some points next week and hope something happens at Atlanta, as we are now 67 of 120 laps complete here at Milwaukee. Make it 68 for Brandon Cooper as he crossed the line that time. Still no signs of pit stops yet, and nobody has had any trouble since we went back green. And up front, still Cooper, Rayner second, Harris third. We're going to take a quick break, but you won't miss a thing as we go side by side. Stick with us here at Milwaukee.
I played a couple of simulators and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
green flag is in the air. We are racing.
3x3.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. To the finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Well, back to Milwaukee Speedway. Before we do get back to full screen, did want to show everybody another look at the schedule. Again, hard to believe, but we are already 10 weeks complete after the race here tonight is over at Milwaukee. Just 2 races remaining. Next week, it's off to Darlington for 85 laps at the Lady in Black. And then the final week, we're going to head off to New Atlanta Motor Speedway for a hybrid super speedway race to cap things off in the championship battle. So still a lot of excitement left and certainly looking forward to all of it. And right now, we've got quite a bit of excitement still on the racetrack because there's a few different battles going on. Brandon Cooper, by the way, is catching another lap truck here. It's the 56 of Brad Thacker. And again, I say, will Thacker let him by or will Thacker try to defend here a little bit? The 99 has closed up to 0.8 of a second. Looks like Thacker will choose to let him go without too much racing. He'll do the same for Bryce Rayner. And so for Rayner here, he had it closed into about 0.8 of a second. That corner, though, not too good for him. It's back up to almost a second. James Harris continues to slowly fade, although he's strong in that third spot. Nobody anywhere close to him. And back and forth, Toby Ritters finally was able to get around the 31 of Harley Barletta. As soon as he did, he was able to start stretching that gap out pretty comfortably. George Young back in 6th. Good run for him. Jason Ethery 7th. Brad Thacker is 8th after losing that lap. So that will leave us now with just 7 trucks on the lead lap. Trey Whitehead was good earlier tonight, but just something has been of a struggle for that 71 team. He has fallen back to 9th, currently sitting a lap down, and just can't seem to find, again, that pace that seemed like he had earlier towards the start of the race. So with where he currently sits now, got to think he's either hoping for a caution or something else, but see him now get to the inside here, the 31 of Harley Barletta. So he'll easily take that spot back. Still have not seen any pit stops yet. Wesley Shaw, I think, decided to call it a night on his end. Besides that, again, haven't really seen any sort of strategy in play just yet. My guess was that these guys will still have to pit once, because it would be about a 90-lap run on green flag laps. But, I mean, they might be able to make it. I'm sitting here trying to do the math of how many miles these guys can run at Daytona. They probably get about 32 to 34 laps. Let's just say it was 32. 2.5 miles of racetrack. It's going to be interesting. We'll have to wait and see here. They might be able to stretch it the entire way on fuel. And again, I think if you can make it on fuels, you have to go in, or you have to stretch it on tires. You can't go in for just 4 tires. Wouldn't really make sense. You're going to lose at least a lap, but Bryce Rayner now all of a sudden starting to fade again. Not sure if Brandon Cooper was maybe holding it at about 80% there for a little bit, or if he just figured something else out, but Rayner had been tracking him down for quite a few laps there. All of a sudden, that's not the case anymore, and now we'll have to wait and see if James Harris can find a way to start to track back down. That second place running 99 truck. And by the way, look at the lap times here. Go first to your leader here, Brandon Cooper. 31.2. You go back to Trey Whitehead, 33. So I said we hadn't seen any pit stops yet. That is incorrect. The 71 of Trey Whitehead did make a pit stop about 5 laps ago, so he is now on fresh tires. Certainly running a lot faster than your leader. So that would explain why, at least for Trey Whitehead, he's currently a lap down, but as soon as everybody else pits, he will get back on the lead lap, and it will be interesting to see where he fares out once everything cycles through the pits. Again, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. As just in time, pit stops underway here for your leader. Wow. Brandon Cooper is going to go with the early strategy. I was curious about if we'd have a pit stop, but even if we had one, this is not the strategy call I thought we were going to see from the 54. By him coming in early here, That means that when Rayner and Harris pit, they are technically going to have fresher tires than the 54. Usually when you're the leader by the margin he was, you stay out until everybody else pits. But for Brandon Cooper here, he's going to go with the opposite. 40 laps to go is when he makes his pit stop. And I should note that, since I said we went back green with 70, he ran basically 50 laps on that set of tires. So he'll be running about 10 less on this one. And now James Harris, Bryce Rayner both going to follow. In terms of the pit strategy, no big surprises there. They obviously want to keep as close to that 54 as they can. The big surprise for me, though, is going to be what can they do with these slightly fresher tires. As for James Harris, waits for them to get the left sides on as his stop looked a little bit slow there. See the 54 go by. Bryce Rayner looked pretty good through that. Let's see. I don't know if Rayner's going to hold the lead. He is not. Brandon Cooper is going to be able to get back by. Oh, the 54 slid, though. Oh, that was a big moment. Here we go. Bryce Rayner's going to go on the inside. Oh, man, Brandon Cooper goes from bad to worse. He knows he's got to fight some contact now to the inside of Bryce Rayner through 3 and 4. Bryce going to try to cross him back over here. Watch out. If you're Bryce Rayner, you might try to ship him in the next corner. More contact. These two certainly getting a little physical here. Now they're going to go 3 wide with a lap car into the corner. Brandon Cooper pitting a lap early, knows that he's got just slightly older tires and then had that brief slide. That put him side by side with Rayner, and I think he's worried here that if he gives this lead up, he may not get it back. Bryce Rayner going to look back to the inside here into turn 3. I got to think if you're James Harris here, you're hoping these two get into it so you can get right back up here in the mix, but Brandon Cooper is going to be able to get back clear. And I think that Bryce Rayner was a little bit friendly to him right there, especially after the contact that Cooper gave to that 99. We'll see if Rayner repays the favor. I'll tell you what, for a guy who seems like he's kind of got beat around the racetrack a couple of times here tonight, seems to be pretty cool-tempered. 99 of Bryce Rayner, that is. I would have been pretty frustrated right now, but that is why he is one of your championship favorites, as the 31 of Harley Barletta has now taken over the lead. Until he makes his pit stop, he should remain there. So he currently has a 14-second gap on Brandon Cooper. Rayner going to try to close it back up, and I just think for Bryce, with the way that last run went, I mean, he did start to close up a little bit in the late run, but we really have not seen anybody track down the leader here tonight in a long run. It's been whoever's led has been able to hold on to it, whether that was James Harris in the first run, Brandon Cooper in the second run. It's all a question of who it's going to be here in this third run. And I say that because I think if you're Bryce Rayner, you should try to push the pace here, see if you can get up to that 54, get by him, and then try to play defense, especially because you got the fresher tires. But Rayner is the king of tire saving. He knows how to do it, so we'll see if he decides to try that. As you see James Harris here currently about a straightaway back from the top two in terms of time, currently about a second to a second and a half back from the leaders. So he will continue to see if he can chase them down. Trey Whitehead, after things cycle out, this is interesting, puts him 5th. Once Harley Barletta pits, this will put him 4th. So it may be that Trey Whitehead actually still does have the speed, and it was just that early pit strategy that had me confused up here in the booth. So we'll see if it plays out for the 71. Again, he did go in a significant amount earlier than everybody else, so that means that his tires will also wear out significantly sooner. To see how it pans out. Barletta still leads. We are still fixated on this right here, because I think this could likely be the battle for the win. Brandon Cooper versus Bryce Rayner. Who can get to that lead spot at the right time? Cooper continues to hold on, and I also wonder for Brandon, the same as I wondered for Bryce, how much did they use up their tires in that little battle that they had? Did one of them use them up a little bit too much? Seems like for now they're okay. James Harris has not been able to really close that gap up either on these two. There are coming up on some more lap traffic here. The 70 of Chris Logan next in line. And for Logan, that will be his second lap down. And then they've got a couple others there that are coming off at turn 2, it looks like. I think that's the 8th place running truck at the moment of George Young. So we're talking about the possibility. I mean, we've only got 7 trucks on the lead lap at the moment. And we could potentially see even less than that by the time this race is over if it does indeed stay green. We had that one caution early on, and then we had the second caution with the incident between Bryce Rayner and James Harris. Went back green just under 30 laps complete. Since then, we have not had any cautions, and really we haven't even had any incidents on track. Closest thing we had to one was the big slide from Brandon Cooper on the cold tires when he came out of the pits. And a brief battle between him and Bryce Rayner, but again, that was the extent of it. But here we go, another battle could be shaping up. Rayner's got a big run, he's gonna move him here. Oh boy, couldn't tell if there was contact, but he certainly dove it in really deep. Let's get back on board here with Bryce Rayner. This is the closest that he has gotten since they battled right as they cycled out of the pits. Rayner much later on the braking zone. That's the advantage of a track like this, is that you have to use some brake going into the corner that you really can make up a lot by diving it in deeper. Then obviously the trade-off here is the guy in front can get a better exit on the corner. Bryce Rayner, they're trying to get a little bit higher here just to see if he can arc it down through the center a little bit sooner than that 54 and try to get the run. Boy, they are both so good up front. Two of the favorites when it comes to these short tracks. Brandon Cooper, and we know he's already got a win this season. And for a guy with only 2,000 I rating, he shows you that he must not run officials a lot, because he is more than fast enough when it's time to come out here and put on a show. Rayner still really close. No contact that time, but still within pretty much striking distance here as soon as he wants to go for it. They are less than 30 laps to go. We're going to be coming up on 25 laps to go in just a couple more. So slowly starting to run out of time here if you're Bryce Rayner. But you know, if you make one mistake, 25 laps may not be enough to close any deficit that becomes of that mistake. Well, we may not have seen a ton of racing here tonight, but this could make up for it right here. These two, I mean, it's just a cat and mouse game. I think they're both about equal in terms of speed, but Bryce Rayner right now trying to put the pressure on, and the 54 is trying to play the mind games to not let the 99 get by. I still wonder if Rayner's trying to play patience here, thinking that the 54 is going to fall off. I'm not a fan of it in the sense of, I think if it doesn't work out or you make one slip up, he's gone, and you can't track him back down. But again, I think Rayner's trying to play as much patience as he can. And you can see the 54 definitely sliding up higher through the middle of the corner, but it seems like it gets him just that little bit better exit every time that happens. See if Rayner tries to make any adjustments. They're both pretty much hooked on the bottom through 3 and 4, 1 and 2. They run that little arc up and hook it back down as much as they can to the bottom. Nothing doing that time for Bryce Rayner. By the way, Harley Barletta still not made a pit stop, although it's not really going to matter much longer here because he's only about a second and a half ahead of your leaders. You see him coming off of turn 4, so they are getting ready to go by him, and that will make him surrender the lead as Harley Barletta tries to see if he can lap George Young, who just unlapped himself. And he will not. At least it's not looking like it at the moment here. Side by side, Brandon Cooper with a lap truck right there going into 3. That was Charles Whitehead. Another advantage here to the 99 of Rayner. Harley Barletta is racing for track position here. Will he give up the lead, or is he going to battle the 54 for it? If you're Bryce Rayner, this has got to be the opportunity. I think you got to go for it right here. Here we go. Trouble. That's what he was waiting on. Some contact with the 31. Now the 54 is going to slide. Brandon Cooper trying to save it. Rayner lets him catch it, but he's going to sneak by on the inside in the process. He did go down through the pit lane. We'll see if that's a penalty. And where did James Harris come from? Out of nowhere, the 55 up top. Can Harris get by? It was such a big slip up that now you've got 3 trucks in the mix. Some more contact now. Cooper gets into Harris. Now Cooper's going to come up. Not clear. Gets into Harris. Oh my goodness. Chaotic sequence right there. We're going to have to go back and look at that. Oh my goodness. As it settles out though, Bryce Rayner takes the lead. Cooper second. James Harris third. Go back and look at it. There was a lot going on right there. I didn't even realize James Harris came up there because I was so focused on the 2 leaders getting into it. That's what we talk about sometimes when you get, and Harley Barletta wasn't a lap car, but he was on such older tires that it was kind of like you were trying to get by a lap car. And as they go into the corner right here, Barletta is going to take the same line that he's been taking every lap. The 54, though, on much newer tires has a big run. Felt like he was going to be able to use the inside. Didn't think Harley was probably going to go down. Gets into him. And then see the 99 of Rayner trying to get under some contact. Cooper makes a wicked save. But then Bryce Rayner able to sneak under him there using the pit lane access. And then here came James Harris. Massive run, was almost able to clear both, but just couldn't quite get by the 99 into 3. And because of that, now the 54 is able to close it back up. Barletta gets a little bit in the way of James Harris right there, as Barletta was still trying to battle. And then right there, boy, Brandon Cooper was really lucky to not get turned by the 55. He was not clear and came right up on the nose. I think that was maybe just a little bit of frustration from the 54, who may have just had this race taken away by the 99 of Rayner. Something to keep an eye on. But the 99 now leads, 54 second, 55 rounding out the podium. 20 laps to go. We're going to take one more quick break. We'll be right back. Stick with us here at Milwaukee.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive. Especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by three.
Almost all trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to Milwaukee, here at the Milwaukee Mile for the Grindstone Developments Truck Series, and closing in on the end of the Milwaukee 120. Going to be just 14 laps to go for Bryce Rayner as he crosses the line this time. And you didn't miss much over break. The big thing we're still tracking here is the top three: Bryce Rayner, Brandon Cooper, and James Harris. Cooper trying to get back to the 99. And again, I wonder, as I did for the 99 earlier, if he does get back there, do we see a little bit of contact? Another lap truck here in the picture as well. It's the 48 of George Young. We'll see if Young decides to try to get racy with the 99 or if he lets him go. Bryce Rayner got a pretty good run down the straight. I think George Young's going to let him go here without too much of a fight. That was a good time to catch right there. Yep, George Young going to stay plenty high. Won't impact either of the leaders. Now for Brandon Cooper, he's about half a second back with slightly older tires. James Harris is a second back with equal tires to that of Bryce Rayner. And even if you're James Harris, even if you can just get that one spot on Brandon Cooper, that means that Bryce Rayner, who won the race, if it plays out this way, is only going to gain 1 point on you. So this is still an incredible night for James Harris. He's doing exactly what he came here to do. Oh, trouble here. The 99 blinked out. Uh-oh. Will Bryce Rayner blink back? Yes, he does. That was a little bit of a sketchy moment right there for the 99, but the 54 still trying to close, and these two have been really, really close on lap times over the last few here. And for Bryce Rayner, looks like he's actually been believe a little bit slower over about 4 out of the last 5 laps. But this most recent one, I don't think that was the case. We'll have to see as they cross the line. Show you that time delta 2 between Bryce Rayner and Brandon Cooper. And Brandon Cooper is very, very slowly over the course of the last 5 laps closed it up, with the exception of that one they just ran. He was a tad bit slower. 11 laps to go, though, now, as they work down the back straightaway. For Brandon Cooper, obviously not fighting for any sort of points championship, but he would like to get as many trophies on the shelf as he can. Great opportunity here tonight for another one after winning his first race of the season. Quite a few weeks back, actually, maybe more so about a month back. That was all the way back at Kentucky when he got the job done. So he goes from 1.5 miles to short track, but he's been fast on both. Bryce Rayner, the storyline for him is obviously trying to make it not only win number 3 of the season, but win number 3 in a row. If he can hang on here for about 9 more laps tonight. Cooper still right around that 5 to 7 tenths of a second range. And I think if he could get within about a tenth, maybe 2 tenths, he could find a way to potentially move him up out of the groove, but that's probably the extent of it. Otherwise, I don't know if he's going to get up there. For Bryce Rayner, I don't think you want to see that caution right now. So he's going to be hustling around to try to get to the white flag here. 8 more times around to do it. Further back in the field, Toby Ritter's still a phenomenal run going, currently in 4th. Trey Whitehead is settled into that 5th spot and looking like he'll be able to hang on to a top 5. So the early pit strategy still did work out for the 71 team. George Young, good run for him in 6th. Harley Barletta, though, staying out long did not work out for him. I got to assume he was gambling and hoping for a caution. Didn't play out, though. Now he is currently back in 7th, sitting a lap down. And by the way, we only have 5 trucks on the lead lap at the moment. Chris Logan is currently sitting a lap down as well. And then Jason Nethery, 1 lap down. Brad Thacker, 2 down. Charles Whitehead is 5 laps down. Wesley Shaw, the only truck that had to retire from this race. So it will be 6 laps to go. And they cross the line next time. And up front, top 3 are all still within the same camera view. For James Harris here, all of a sudden now he may have a shot at the 54. Harris has started working at much higher entry to the corner, but it does allow him to arc it down a little bit sooner. Just trying to get enough grip to keep the throttle down here. Rayner lost a little bit of time that lap. The 54 was able to get it under half a second momentarily. And Rayner up the racetrack. That's going to get him a good run down the backstretch here. The 54, a little bit too early on the gas, I think, right there. Maybe not. Cooper found something. We'll see if Bryce Rayner's able to make an adjustment. He closed another 10th right there. I thought he was going to wash up a lot on exit of the corner, but he was able to keep it pinned down there. As we now go back to the cockpit view, and I mean, both of these guys are pushing about as hard as they can, but if you're Brandon Cooper, you're watching that 99, you're trying to kind of base certain things off of him, but then you try to push it that little bit more. Rayner slid up big time again. Is Bryce Rayner maybe wearing his stuff out here? Oh, Cooper got a little bit loose, though, so he wasn't able to make up as much as he could have. Rayner still seems to be pretty good down here in 3 and 4, but 1 and 2, he has been making a couple of mistakes. Brandon Cooper's trying to jump on it. He's a little bit better on entry. They're pretty close on exit through 3 and 4 that time. And we've already seen these two tangle a couple times. If they get into it again, James Harris could steal what I believe would be win number 3 of the season. Go back and check that here as we're watching these guys continue to fight. Cooper now within about 2 tenths of a second. This is the closest he has been since Bryce Rayner got around. Watch for some contact. Looking to the inside here. Not going to go for it, but he is going to prevent the 99 from being able to arc it back to the inside. Now they're going to be side by side down the front stretch for the race lead. Cooper not quite able to pounce. He'll tuck back in line for the moment. I think Cooper knows that he's got Bryce Rayner on the ropes right here all of a sudden. And guess who? James Harris is now closed back in. 3 cars, less than half a second. That is the battle for the lead with 3 laps to go here at Milwaukee. Cooper is thinking about it. He's really thinking about it. Oh, man, watch out. Bryce Rayner blinking around again right here. He blinks back in as it's now 2 laps to go. Under 2 tenths of a second for Brandon Cooper as we look out of the rearview mirror here for Bryce Rayner, and that is exactly what it feels like, too. That truck gets bigger and bigger as the laps wind down. In the 54 that time, tried to get up a little bit sooner, but it doesn't really translate to much momentum. I think if you're Brandon Cooper here, you got to try to stay close, and I think the way he wins this is if he gives him a little shot going into the corner, but he's going to miss out. Oh, now he's loose. Him and Harris are battling, and that may have been the last chance for Brandon Cooper. 1 lap to go. Bryce Rayner, just 2 sets of corners left. Brandon Cooper still trying to catch him. James Harris trying to get around the 54 for third. Final time off of turn 2. How good was the run for the 99? Good enough to gain just a little bit more breathing room. Final time into 3. James Harris ships it in. Won't get to the 54, but Cooper's not going to get to Rayner either. How about third win of the season? Make it 3 in a row. Bryce Rayner gets it done at Milwaukee. Cooper takes home second, and James Harris finishes on the podium, and boy, he made sure to express, oh my goodness, boy, a couple of guys showing displeasure right there at the 54, and they're still not done yet. Oh my goodness. Yeah, James Harris, I think, made sure to let Brandon Cooper know I didn't appreciate the way that you raced me. And I think Harley Barletta might have done the same. Nonetheless, though, your race winner tonight is the 99 of Bryce Rayner. Again, it's win number 3 for him. Third one in a row. Started back at Watkins Glen. Then he got it done at Richmond. Here he is tonight, making it happen at Milwaukee. So he'll come around and burn it down here on the front stretch. And with the way the results finished up, he will gain 2 points on James Harris. That will close that points championship battle up to 10 points as we head into the final 2 races of the season. And as Bryce Rayner does continue to celebrate and burn it down in front of the virtual grandstands, take a look at your finishing results here tonight. Again, Rayner is your race winner. Brandon Cooper takes home second. James Harris back in third. Toby Ritter's fourth. Troy Whitehead rounds out the top 5. Harley Barletta finishing back in 6th with George Young 7th. Chris Logan in 8th. Jason Nethery in 9th. And Brad Thacker rounding out the top 10. Charles Whitehead takes home 11th. Wesley Shaw had to retire early from the race. He finishes in 12th. All right, we're going to grab your top 3 for interviews. Stick with us. We'll be right back here at Milwaukee. All right, and we're going to kick things off here tonight. First with your race winner, the 99 of Bryce Rayner. Bryce, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Oh, yeah, I got you, Austin.
Well, man, you take home the win here tonight. Third one of the season and third race win in a row. Seems like you're finding a hot streak at just the right time. But, boy, we saw some really close calls right there at the end between you and the 54, you and the 55. A lot of close battling, but you come out on top. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, what a great race. You had some late pit calls to pit fuel and tires there around lap 80 or so. So we kind of split that the second stint in half from the first time we pitted. And it kind of was all over the place. I mean, I expected lap 80 I was going to pit, but then when Brandon pit, I was like, okay, I'll pit next time. And I just had a better pit stop than he did, and a great out lap, in lap, all of it. And yeah, I mean, it went on from there, but it's short track race, and that's all I'm going to say. I mean, it's great bumping and banging back and forth, but there can be a line that can be crossed with the aggression, especially right out the pit road. But all in all, great race. I had a fun time battling with James, Brandon, and everybody else.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the incident. We saw you and James Harris get tangled up earlier. Obviously, we saw some contact with the 54 later, but that one, you spun, you back it into the outside wall, you still managed to recover. How did that kind of change the strategy? What adjustments did you try to make to get yourself back towards the front of the field?
Not really any adjustments from my perspective. I know Trey and Toby had old tires or no tires in that restart, and when we took that restart, I gave James the middle because I knew the top 2 were going to be a little bit slow on the entry and exit, so I was giving James a lane. And going through turns 1, we were fine, and then going into turn 3, I noticed we were going to be 3 wide again. So I got a little bit loose and free all at the same time. So I kind of dove into 1 there, and I didn't think I was that slow, but comparing to when everybody let off, he kind of, hit me in the rear, which it is no biggie by him. I mean, that's just an accident, that not really wanting to do that on purpose. So just kind of recovered from there. But then again, that kind of ripped my tires through, and lost about 4% on both of my right sides. So on that long green flag run, it was kind of a struggle, especially once I got past James, to eventually try to battle Brandon. And I just had nothing for him because the tires that I spun on kind of fell off a cliff. So we were just waiting for that pit stop and make the most of it, and which we did.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, it was a great race and a continued hot streak for you as you get the win tonight. So before we let you head out, Bryce, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, thanks, Austin. Definitely was a fun one tonight. 3 in a row again. Let's try to go for 5 the next 2 weeks. Darlington's going to be a struggle, I think, coming from the open side. I'm not really great at that track. I'm only good there in the B car and the A car, so we will see. But we'll put some practice in and hopefully get out 4 wins and 5 wins to end off the season. And probably congrats to James on the championship, but it's always too early to tell, especially with 2 races to go. And you got a super speedway in there, which is Atlanta. So me and him are going to go battle for sure in the next 2 weeks. Thanks to Grindstone Developments for the league. Thanks PGR, Austin. You guys do a phenomenal job putting this on and letting all the fans and family watch. Thanks to Martin PC, Team Conti Sim Performance, Digital Sim Sports, Studio 3, Graph 61, all the admins in this league. It was a great, fun little event tonight. Me and James had some laughs, so that was good, and we'll go back to battling next week.
Sounds like a plan. Well, Bryce, thank you for talking to us again. Congrats on the race win, and we will see you next week at Darlington.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, Austin.
All right, now that's going to bring us up to your second place finisher here tonight. That is none other than Brandon Cooper. If we can get him in here, looks like he has left the Discord for now, so we'll try to pull him up in just a moment, and that will hand things over to your third place finisher here tonight, and that is the 55 James Harris. James, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Hey, Austin, how's it going?
Good. Well, man, you finish in third, but I would say you had just as good of a shot to win it there at the end as the top 2 did. A lot of battling. We saw a lot of chaos there at the end. 2 things I want to talk about, though. First one was, let's talk about, you were sitting in third, about a second behind. All of a sudden, the leaders tangle. You almost get by both of them for the lead. But then it looked like you and the 54 tangled again. Tell us a little bit about all that.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on in the 54 tonight. His racecraft is complete garbage. He threw a bad block on me on that restart with like 90 something to go. Took me to the wall, and I was behind him and Bryce after that pit stop. It looked like he was slamming all over Bryce. But yeah, at the end of the race there, man, we had a good car, good truck. I think we were faster than the front 2. And if we probably had about 5 more laps, we probably could have at least got the 54. If not, we probably could have got Bryce. But it is what it is. We had a good point today.
Yeah, certainly did. That was the next thing that I wanted to talk about is, I know that obviously you want to get as many trophies as you can, but you said last week, I think you said, I quote, that you needed an average finish of 4th and you'd be just fine. Well, here tonight, obviously you come home on the podium. Next week at Darlington, if you're able to get another consistent finish, does that maybe almost force you to just play it conservative at Atlanta to not have to risk getting in a wreck?
Yes and no. I mean, you don't want to be too conservative next week because Atlanta is Atlanta. I think I have a 10-point lead after losing 2 points tonight, so that bumps our average finish to 5th. So I'm probably going to race hard to try to get a top 2, top 3 next week because I need as many points as I can going to Atlanta because, like I said, you just never know what's going to happen there. The only thing that I have in my favor is a lot of times during the end of the seasons here in these leagues, people stop coming as it winds down. So maybe we don't have a ton of people in Atlanta, and maybe that'll play to my benefit.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, it was another great run for you here tonight, James, and still out in front in the championship point standings. So before we let you head out here tonight, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I'm going to thank my wife, Courtney, for watching and supporting all my races. My son, Cooper. I think he's in bed now because he has school tomorrow. Kevin Kirster of Blackstone Management, Champion Power Equipment, Grindstone Development. We had them on the truck tonight. I hope they enjoyed the race. And just all the guys in the league. We race hard and have fun.
James, thank you for talking to us. Congrats again on the podium finish. We will see you next week at Darlington.
All right, man.
All right, that is going to wrap up interviews because it looks like Brandon Cooper has not hopped in a Discord channel. I'm not sure if he's just not happy. Oh, take it back. Found him. So it looks like he is here. We will get an interview. See how he's feeling. Hey, Brandon, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
I got you.
Well, you take home a second place finish here tonight, but I mean, the first question is the same one that I had to ask to first and third. There's a lot of contact between you and them tonight. James Harris and Bryce Rayner, seemed like it could have went on both sides at different points. Tell us a little bit about the aggression we saw.
Man, I'm just racing for the win. Nobody wrecked. Everybody ended up being good. Nothing bad in the end happened. We were still right there next to each other at the end. I mean, I get it. They got hit. Whatever. I was just racing for the win, man. I got loose coming out. While Bryce was coming out the pits, I worried too much about him and got loose. I definitely would have gotten him out of the pits. But I got loose off the corner. It got me and Bryce side by side, and I had to let it go. Got into Harley. It did not mean to do that. I was paying way too much attention to the stuff around me. I mean, I know I look like a wrecking ball out there today, but I'm here to race for the win, and I'm gonna do it the way I need to, the way I have to. So, if they don't like it,
well, it pays off tonight. You still obviously get a good second place finish, and next week we head to a track where there's usually a little bit more space between drivers in Darlington. How do you feel about your chances there, and how do you feel about your shot at Atlanta getting another win before it's all said and done this season?
I feel pretty good about Darlington. I do like that track, especially in the trucks. Really good at saving my tires there. Atlanta, I'm not lucky enough to win one of those races, man. I mean, unless we have a 12-car field like we had tonight. Yeah, I don't think I'll win Atlanta, but definitely looking forward to Darlington next week. Hopefully we can get the win there.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, before we let you head out tonight, celebrate a good second place finish, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
I would like to thank Trey Whitehead. That dude, he's in charge of our race team. This dude makes us paints. He does all this stuff for us, and I can't thank him enough. I don't think he gets thanked enough. And honestly, all the team White House Racing, we are good. We're a good group of guys. We race every week, just trying to really get after it and really get Whitehead Racing's name out there. But I think that's it.
Absolutely. Well, certainly getting the name out there with finishes like the one you had tonight. Brandon, thank you for talking to us, and we'll see you next week at Darlington.
All right. See you.
All right. Well, that will officially wrap up our interviews tonight, and also is going to wrap up our coverage here from Milwaukee for the Grindstone Developments Truck Series. A little bit more aggression tonight than what we've seen so far this season, but I think things should hopefully calm down a little bit next week at Darlington. Regardless, it's going to be a good race as Bryce Rayner, your race winner tonight, will try to continue to see if he can close the gap in the point standings between himself and James Harris, and we will be there for all the action. As for tonight, thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I hope you enjoyed. That's it for me, Austin Green, here on PGR eSports, and until next time,